Well, I don't think any of us saw this one coming. Kenny Atkinson and the Nets have mutually parted ways. Interpret that however you wish. Twitter is choosing to interpret it exactly how you think they are, which is that it's Kyrie and Kevin Durant's fault, and mainly Kyrie's fault. Hey, Kyrie is definitely a weirdo between the flat earth stuff and the what even is the point of life stuff when he's just asked how his day is going. That hasn't exactly happened, but it probably has. But if I can attempt to not just blame Kyrie for this, I mean, Atkinson had been there for a few years. We've heard before about coaches losing their voice in locker rooms and stuff as years go along. And that's what Atkinson basically said, is like his voice was not as strong as it used to be. There's a chance that Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert and Joe Harris and Jared Allen, these guys who were with Atkinson for a few years, there's a chance they just might have outgrown him as players, and they might have been able to be like, yeah, you know what, Atkinson, you're not really improving as a coach, even if we're improving as players. I don't know that. I'm just trying to speculate, because if it's not that, then I guess there would have been something about maybe the organization didn't like him. Maybe there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes we didn't know about. Perhaps Atkinson is a little more problematic or toxic than we would like to believe, but it's seemed pretty good up to this point, so there's that. In terms of X's and O's stuff, I mean, he was very reliant on isolations with Dinwiddie and Kyrie and Karis LeVert at end-of-game situations, and okay, that's not always the best thing in the world to go to. Besides that, I don't really know. I mean, sure, maybe he wasn't the best in the league at drawing up a play out of a timeout or whatever, but I don't think that's the make it or break it thing between you having a job or not, So, yeah, I mean, I guess I would put him probably in the above average tier of NBA head coaches, so that's why this is pretty surprising. A decent amount of teams should consider taking Atkinson on, but to get back to the Nets now, I don't know, man. Do you want me to say Kyrie is a coach killer? I don't really know if he is. He's certainly an interesting person and presence in a locker room, but I don't think a lot of stories have really come out about Kyrie being crazy this year. Granted, apparently there were things in Boston that never made it to the media, and maybe they'll happen one day. Although I feel like the Celtics would probably want to suppress any of that. So I don't know. Maybe something's going to come out in the next 3 hours about Kyrie and Atkinson coming to blows in the locker room, having to choose between the two of them. But I don't know, man. It's just really out of nowhere. I think the very first sign of things being different, besides just the obvious thing of them signing Kyrie, KD, and DeAndre, is that, remember the medical stuff or whatever they were trying to do earlier in the year, and Kyrie was like, no, I'm not going to put a bunch of wires on myself so you guys can track my whatever the hell. So that might have been the seed planted for all of this. And even that sounds like I'm blaming Kyrie, but I guess it's more of just a cultural shift in the overall tone of the team, which maybe eventually led to Atkinson being gone, but not necessarily him and Kyrie just being enemies, I guess. Well, now the next question is, what kind of coach should the Nets look to now? I mean, their interim coach is Jacques Vaughn. Maybe he'll be alright, who knows. But then the question after that is, what type of coach do the Nets want after? Do they want, like Tom Thibodeau, a bit of a drill sergeant kind of coach, or do they want someone who's a little more chill, who is, I don't know. I mean, there's only so many decent head coaches to go around. I don't really know. That'll be an interesting thing. I mean, do you just hire Ty Lue and just go for the Kyrie connection? I mean, Ty Lue seems to do a good job of connecting with players, and if you think your offense is going to boil down to ISOs anyway with Kyrie, KD, and Dinwiddie, then maybe you would just go for that guy. I don't really know, but another thing, and this will play back into the whole like cultural shift thing, is at this point, the Nets are pretty much completely different than what we saw the past couple of seasons. Sure, there's still some overlap. Sean Marks, Joe Harris, Jared Allen, LeVert, Dinwiddie. But to me, Atkinson and D'Angelo Russell were the hearts of that whole thing. And with those two being gone now, it creates a big unknown for the Nets over the next couple of seasons, especially with Kyrie's injury stuff. Because before this season, I feel like the Nets, they were on a path to being, 47, 48, maybe a 50-win team. I mean, if we look at between D'Lo and Dinwiddie and LeVert and Atkinson, and all the chemistry they had there, and not having DeAndre Jordan, who's just not that good. I mean, Jared Allen's a better player. That team could have just kept being the exciting, fun Nets who eventually have a couple of their own guys grow into all-stars or something. I mean, D'Lo already made one all-star team. And then they probably could have made a few moves here and there, and who knows what the ceiling on that team would have been, right? Of course, the ceiling on this team is championship. The floor is your two stars are injured and the chemistry is bad. And then before you know it, there's only like a year left on Kyrie and KD's deals, and it's, do these two really want to be here? And before you know it, 3 or 4 years have gone by, and you're in a worse spot than you ever were. I mean, there's a chance things go well, but Kyrie is simply injured all the time. I mean, the dude ended up playing, 20-something games this year? 20 games total for Kyrie. I don't know. It's weird stuff. Maybe the Nets already have Atkinson's replacement ready to go, and they simply couldn't do it at this moment. Maybe their contract and negotiations weren't going well. I don't know. Could have been something a lot more simple than some mutiny against the head coach. But who knows? I mean, these next few months are going to be very interesting for the Nets in terms of what they do in the offseason, who they hire as the coach, and who's going to be the culture setter. And I think there's still questions about KD and Kyrie as leaders, so yeah, this team could go in a million different places over the next couple of seasons, so I guess this is just one step in that whole process.